Hey John, welcome back to another conversion focused website review. Today we are going to take a look at a brand that a lot of people know and love. I don't personally own one, but obviously I've heard a lot about Peloton, and I'll get the website fired up here today. But I'm curious, do you have one of these in your home, or does anybody that you know have a Peloton floating around their living space?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that have them. I do not. I prefer to get my exercise playing basketball, but um, my trainer does have me ride a bike quite a bit during trainer sessions. So I am, I would say I'm a bike rider, but I'm not a in-home enthusiast.
Got it. I'd put myself in that same bucket. I do have a bike downstairs for the winter months, but for the most part, I do weight training. And if I'm going to get some cardio in, I'm going to try to do it outside because I'm a bit of a homebody. So that's the fresh air that
Mm.
I get is going for a run or a walk with the kids or whatever. So, but yeah, I got the website fired up here. I am relieved to see that within the first 30 seconds, we haven't been bombarded with pop ups left and right. I mean, I definitely see a few things grabbing my attention. There's the promo
Mhm.
bar up top, and then there's a live chat widget down here in the bottom right. But it's not nearly as intrusive as most of the sites that we take a look at.
Yeah, the only concern that I'm really having right now is how quickly the carousel is going. Also, the fact that we've done a lot of testing on carousels over the years, and there's even a really great study done by Notre Dame University around online carousels, and the fact that it really just decreases the user and customer experience on the site, and that generally you're reducing the amount of clicks by as much as 95%, if not more, by doing a carousel. So generally, people try to click on the first one, and then the second one pops up. They get frustrated. They just start scrolling right by it instead. I would highly recommend they stick to one message here. And people, if we did an eye tracking or click tracking on this heat map, we would see pretty quickly that people aren't going to click on those arrows on the left and right. It just isn't something that people are going to engage with. So they're relying on these to rotate. And it's really frustrating because as soon as I start trying to read and look at the picture and understand, it already takes me to the next one.
Right.
So I'm just not a huge fan of that. What they have done personally well though is they kept the CTA in the same location. That's usually a huge mistake with these is people move the CTA between the imagery, and that just frustrates consumers beyond belief. So glad they've done that. I do have I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they're running $300 off right away. That's the first message I see. Kind of devalues the brand a little bit. At least it's accessories if you buy something else, but I would rather see it framed as a bundle, right? Something where save by buying a bundle, right? Then
Right.
it's you are getting more for your money as opposed to them subtracting a dollar or percentage off.
Yeah, I think a lot of that resonates with me. I mean, the first thought I had was I look down here at the bottom for these progress bars. If you only have two, do you really need a carousel? You know, if you're going to have a
Mhm.
carousel, have three or four or multiple. When you have two, what about just a 50-50 layout? It looks like
Yeah.
roughly the same offer. It's save 200 here on the Peloton guide, it's save 300 on the bike or the tread. So
Mhm.
just put those in a 50-50 layout because it's already kind of messy. It's like, wait, which one's 300? 300 with which piece of equipment? 200 with this one? Yeah, just
Yep.
do a 50-50 layout, have two product images next to each other,
Mhm.
have a button under each one, and then let people shop the one that they want. I don't know if it's visible on your screen, but there is a pause button here in the bottom left corner.
Mhm.
So you can actually pause the carousel, which I'm like, if you're going to have one, at least that's a nice touch, but it's really tucked away. So I don't know that anybody would actually use it. And if you have to have a
Mhm.
pause button, maybe that's a signal that you don't need the carousel if you need to give people the opportunity to pause and read,
Yeah.
right?
That is where I was going with this. That if you need a pause button, then you should probably rethink your carousel in general.
Yeah. I do like their use of product photography on this other
Mhm.
tile here, where it's clearly, holiday oriented, but it's a gentle touch, right? It's not in your face,
Mhm.
so it is more evergreen, and it doesn't distract from the message, right? I'm not looking at all
Yeah.
the decor, but I can very easily tell that this is some kind of a holiday promotion that they have going on,
Mhm.
which, gives me a little bit of intuitive urgency, I guess, around that. So let's see. We talked about the offer, and
Hmm.
maybe let's jump into the navigation a little bit. I'm hovering over everything. There is no automatic drop down, which is kind of an
Hmm.
interesting point that I noted because most of the sites I visit, those mega menus automatically kind of unroll whenever I hover my cursor over there.
Hmm.
But this does demand a click, and then you see something similar to what's in front of you here.
Yeah. I love this. I love it's a product focused navigation, first of all, right? They're not talking about the brand. They're not saying, hey, we're this cool brand everyone has. They're really focusing on the product. And that's really what they should be doing. People who are coming here know them for the bikes, right? But they do have the treadmill and, the new rower. Which, if I was going to buy Peloton, that's where I would jump to, right? Is just
Mhm.
skip over the bike and go right to the rower. Um, I love that, they have multiple options for the bike now, right? It's been quite some time I think they've had that, but the fact that they call those out very clearly here, and that you can explore and then get all the details on the right. All of that is really well done. I like this. If you're going to do a mega nav, doing a product focus like this is really well done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the only thing that's confusing to me is explore and shop. I would expect those to be the same thing to go to a product page where you learn more about the Bike Plus and you can
Mm-hmm.
also buy it there. The URLs are different. There is a / Bike Plus and then a
Hmm.
/ shop / Bike Plus. So
Interesting.
it is interesting. Maybe we'll take a look at that. But that jumped out at me as like, man, couldn't you just solve these with a single CTA that goes to the same place? Maybe, maybe
One thing
not.
I Yeah, one thing I would test here is instead of explore, compare,
Yeah,
right? Because consumers are going to want to know what's the difference between the plus and the regular. And, the picture adds a little value here in terms of that. But I do think that people are going to want to know what the difference is. And having an easy way to compare the two, I think would be helpful. They do have compare specs on the right and bikes overview. But I do think if you're going to have explore, you probably should reduce the funnel and just go straight to compare.
yeah. Two last points on this that I'm noticing. One, there is some like subtle price signaling, and I'm sure that with a brand like this, with their maturity and sophistication, it's probably intentional. But like I see financing, and I see $300 off the accessories alone with the purchase of a bike. There is a lot
Mhm.
of signaling for which budget these products might fit into. So I'm sure that's intentional, and that's fine to kind of weed out folks who wouldn't have been a good fit anyway. But I do know that a lot of average consumers, like my mom, might buy this for me as a gift, right? But she might be looking for kind of a baseline price, like starting at 9.99 or
Mhm.
whatever, just to give her a frame of reference of where she'd like to come in as an entry point. That
Mhm.
stood out to me. The other thing is the apparent lack of kind of a product placement quiz. Those are so popular right now.
Mhm.
As somebody who has done cycling, has done rowing, has done worked on a treadmill, obviously, and does strength training, I don't know which product is right for me because I do a little bit of all those things. So there might be some value in having a quiz to do kind of a product placement exercise for consumers that could get involved in multiple ways.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that because it's unlikely that someone is going to have a bike, a treadmill, and a rower in their house as well as the weights. It's just unlikely they're going to buy all of them, right? So help people understand what's best for them, so they walk out with a product as opposed to getting overwhelmed.
Right. Cool. So these all appear to be structured roughly the same way. So I guess we'll move
Hmm.
on into what's below the hero section here. Looks like they're going to repeat kind of that categorical navigation here, oriented around the different product types, and then recommend a
Hmm.
few products again in a carousel layout. So what's your reaction to what you see on screen here?
I love the overview for folks who may have skipped over the nav because they were blinded, if you will, by the carousel and the imagery there. They scroll down now, you have a very quick overview of all the different products that are offered. I love that. Recommended for you. I don't know how they're recommending something for me. They don't know who I am. In theory, you're viewing this in a guest browser window, so there's no chance you've ever been here. But I guess I'm looking at that as saying, really, what you want to do here is just remove the headline. It's great to have recommended products. I think people understand that's what this is, but saying recommended for me or for you, it's probably not that helpful. Most consumers are going to look at that and say, um, it's not personalized for me. There's no way. And they're just going to scroll right past it.
It does feel kind of like filler content at this point because,
Mhm.
why would I need shoes if I don't yet have a bike? And if I do have a bike,
Right.
then I'm a returning customer. And then maybe you're showing me that as a personalization of the homepage or on my account page or something like that. These
Mhm.
feel like things that should be cross sells and upsells in the checkout process, maybe not on the homepage here for somebody who might be a new to file customer. The other thing I noticed is like I love this new badge here for the rower and
Mhm.
how they've kind of front loaded that, whereas in the main navigation they're front loading the bikes. But then I see bestseller and new and fits under Peloton bikes here, and they're so muted and understated. And maybe they
Yeah.
were there before the red badge, but I do think you could kind of replicate. Now, if everything has a badge on it, then does anything really have a badge on it because
Right.
your attention is so fragmented? But if you're going to pick one or two, maybe bestseller and new product, I think it would be better to use kind of this rectangular pill shaped badge than just kind of these muted gray text with icon
Yeah.
combinations.
Agreed. And again, I think you could test getting rid of that entire section, quite honestly.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Okay, so then it looks like we're going to get into classes. I'm guessing these are
Mm.
the instructors. I see some microphones and stuff like that. So here's kind of a sample. I'm not sure if the audio will come through. It probably won't, but yeah, it looks like you're going to have kind of a shadow box pop up, and you can get a 1 minute preview of the shadow
Mhm.
boxing class and running. And
Awesome.
there are quite a few in here. So on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, it's great to see that you have such a big catalog and to get such a comprehensive sampling of the
Mhm.
content, but also like muted and understated are words that we've used several times now. Navigating these small circles and actually getting to what you're trying to get me to watch is going to be
Mhm.
problematic, especially on smaller screens. I'm curious what this looks like on mobile.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that it might be a bit of a challenge on mobile, but the rule in conversion for things like this is you got to tell consumers what you want them to do, and then tell them again.
Hmm.
And I think it's very clear that it's the little play button can be clicked on, but I do think the language is a little soft, right? Get a taste for. It's hard to understand that you're getting a sample by clicking on these, right? Like
Right.
I'm not ready to take a full boxing class at the moment, but I kind of want to check it out and see what it's like. Say 1 minute sample, or see what it's all about. Something of that sort where you're telling people what they're going to do when they click on those. The little play button itself isn't overly descriptive. The other thing I noticed is again with the carousel. Um, Unlikely that a lot of people click on these, as you were doing because we're trying to demonstrate, but even when you were clicking on that last one, and then if you go and click on the first one, there's really not that many in there. It's kind of a dark pattern that's happening here where they're having you click through all of these, but there's not that many. Each dot does not represent one class.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me, right?
Yeah, it looks like there's some overlap. Like if you go to the second one,
Hmm.
then running just moves forward one slot and then one slot, one slot, one slot. So I don't know how many there would be
Yeah.
in total, but 10 or 12 maybe at the most. And you're just kind of shuffling them through in
Hmm.
collections of five. But the other thing I noticed there is I missed this arrow, this navigation arrow entirely. Like I was using
Yeah.
these circles to get through here because one, it looks like the play button, but two, it's also in a lot of these pictures is overlapping like a gray shirt. So it's totally getting lost for me right now.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's what's going to happen, and what happens to most consumers. I would say stack these. If
Hmm.
you really want to show the breadth of the workouts that are available, just have them all showing on the screen at once. People will scroll down the page, right? We can do a scroll map on this and prove that out. But I think that's an amazing test to be run. Is just have them all showing. I think you'll answer the question: what type of workouts, and is there a workout for me? Much more clearly for consumers.
Right. And I don't know much about their instructors, but I imagine these folks do stuff outside of Peloton or at least have big social media followings. So maybe there's name recognition there. Maybe somebody's a CrossFit athlete, maybe somebody's a former
Mhm.
marathoner or Olympian or something like that. I would call that out if you have that in your repertoire and you can like emphasize and tap into their audience. Like, oh yeah, I recognize him. I follow him on Instagram or whatever. I didn't know he was a
Right.
coach over here, and that might bring me in. That might be enough. Um, this looks like more expansion on the class layout and what the app looks
Mhm.
like. And then they do have a quiz here to get class recommendations, which I think is a bit
Okay.
odd because like maybe this is top of funnel for them. If we can just get somebody to install the app, they start working out with us, then they buy the equipment to kind of support that. I don't know
Yeah.
if I have a complaint or an issue with it at that point. But it does feel kind of odd sandwiched in between like these recommended products. And then we led with the equipment, the hardware type of stuff. And now in the middle of the page, we're going back to the app. It feels like going back up the
Mhm.
funnel a little bit in that regard. So I don't know. What's your reaction to that, John?
Well, my reaction is very similar in the stance that we want to sell the gear, and in order to really do that, you need to make sure the classes are on point, which Peloton has done. Has They've always excelled at, right?
Mhm.
But as a new to Peloton consumer, they might not know that. And I didn't know that they had Pilates and all these other classes that were in that carousel, right? So I think this page could be simplified dramatically. Focus on the product, the key products, the big ones, not the accessories, right? And then right below that, show the varying classes. So now you have the 1-2 of, yes, you get the equipment, but you get all of this wonderful classes with it. And then down below, maybe start a more of a sales pitch, like find your class match or something of that sort. If you scroll down a little bit, it did go into the product again. I like this. Um, but overall, because now we're starting to say, okay, we've shown you there's product in all of these classes. Now we're going to get into that price point that you were asking about earlier, right? And so now they're clearly showing what some of these prices are. Um, but again, I think this page could be simplified dramatically and would see much higher conversion because of it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think pairing the products with the associated app is a great move because it might say, okay, I'd love to get into rowing. Maybe I'm not ready to make this $3,200 purchase just yet,
Mhm.
but I can get your app. I can do a rowing workout at my gym on their rower. If I build up that habit, then I feel more confident in
Mhm.
bringing something like this into my home and continuing it there. But you pair those two things together instead of kind of having people jump around on the ladders of this funnel, so to speak, higher or
Yep.
lower. Cool. So then I like this guide element as well. This kind of at home. I remember I can't remember the name of the system, but there was a video gaming system similar to this where
Oh yeah.
it might have been Wii or something like that, but it was one of the big
Xbox
name
had one.
brands. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
where it was like this camera and it was kind of a 360 thing. That's really fun as well. And then to have your coach. So I like that interactive element and. Right now this feels like a price point and a stocking stuffer kind of size that is great for the holiday season. So I don't know, I might even test like different variants where this is a little bit higher
Mhm.
or maybe even given more
Yeah.
prevalence this time of year.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
a
looks
great
like
way to
very
get people involved, right? And then they can level up if you want. But yeah, $300 seems more like a Christmas gift than, 25 or 32 or even,
yeah.
15. So I think that is a great option for something they could push for holiday to get people involved in the brand.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like they have several similar lockups here. I don't know that we need to go through each one individually, but
Mhm.
one thing I'm noticing as a kind of a broader trend is we have these badges that say save on accessories, new product,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, to me, that visually feels like a CTA, but all the CTAs across the
Yeah.
site are pretty understated. There are these outline buttons, there are these text with
Mhm.
a hyperlink underline with them. I would expect them to be kind of these red shapes. And I think we saw that in the hero section, if I'm not mistaken. There is a big red
Yep.
click here button that is transactional and commercial. So I think that's smart. I'm not saying they all have to be red. There can be a hierarchy to these things, like
Mhm.
explore or get the app could be less important than more purchasing decision. But especially down here in a product lockup, I know at this price point, people aren't just going to add it straight to cart. But even
Yeah.
Explore Bike Plus, I would expect that to be a button, and then have this be an icon or a color that is a different shade. It's not red; it's more of a muted like gray or something like that. That just
Yeah.
makes it stand out.
I would even reverse the design styles of those 2.
Yeah.
Just swap them, right? The reality is you've trained people throughout the site that they should look for a square button that's outlined, either red or an outline, and now all of a sudden when you really want people to click through, you're just underlining. So you want to be consistent with your call to actions. So many people always say things like, yeah, you want certain colors or things of that sort. I don't think button colors matters at all. Really, it's the consistency that's key. Consistency and contrast are the two big ones. So if you're worried about color, it's not the specific color, it's really the contrast of that color on the background. So red works. A lot of people say, "Hey, you want green or not red?" That all doesn't matter at all, really. That's just Twitter posting easy things, right?
Yeah.
But really, here you've trained people to look for these square buttons. Let's not swap it out on them when you really want it to count.
Got it. Okay, so then let's jump down, I guess, here to the bottom. This is the first
Mm,
time that I've seen social proof, and there's also, it looks like they're going to compare it to your current gym membership or what else you have going
mhm,
on. So I think that's kind of smart because a lot of people think that your competitor is another company that makes bikes, and yeah, that may be true,
mhm.
but really your competitor is the alternative solution or the incumbent solution, which might be I go to my gym, I don't work out at home. And I think it's
Yep.
smart to address that. It does feel a little far down the page maybe to have something like this. But at the same time, I don't mind pairing it here with some social proof as because somebody, if they
Mhm.
haven't clicked through at this point, they're on the fence for one reason or another. So you're trying to pick one of those objections and address it head on.
Yep, well said.
Cool. All right, and then well, we got blog content on the homepage. I know we've talked about this in the past. It's been a while, but I think our usual advice here is blog content's great. I'm sure you invest in a bunch of time and resources and expertise into it, and I'm sure it's high quality. But having it on the homepage here feels like moving somebody backward in the sales consideration stage and going back
Mhm.
into more education. When what we really want them to do is to start evaluating a product line and getting closer to a purchasing decision. So, did I
Yeah,
mischaracterize
this
anything there,
is
John?
no, well, the one thing I would say here is they've done a good job of not picking random blog posts. These are blog posts that are answering common objections. And I like the way they've used this content. Now, I would say this is the way to use blog content. The placement on the homepage is a challenge, right? I would put this on a product detail page, on that explore page that for the bikes, for instance, right? What can you expect your first 30 days if you have a small space? What else do you get with Peloton? All of that is really valuable information, and they're using the blog content in the right way. It's just not in the right place.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, that's a great point, and I wouldn't even reference blog. Like, you don't need
Hmm.
to explain to the user that these are blog
Yep.
posts. What these are really doing is answering objections or questions. So it would be
Hmm.
like, what do my first 30 days with Peloton look like? I would make that the big bold heading. I'd get rid of, I mean, your first 30 days is fine, but if you made this kind of a full width and stack these on top of each other,
Hmm.
you could say, what your first 30 days with Peloton look like. Is the app really worth the cost? Will it fit in my space? Whatever. Those would be the big headlines. And then when somebody
Yeah.
clicks through, they'll realize that it's an article, but that's okay. Like, you don't have to call out that it's the Peloton blog, right? What
Yeah.
they're really trying to solve is address that question that they have in their mind. Uh, let's see. Okay, and then we get into the fine print. My goodness, that's
Hmm.
that's quite a bit. But I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to get into where that needs to be or what it needs to say. But it is pretty jarring, I think, even to the average consumer to get down here and be like, "Oh, what does all this mean?" And then I start asking questions like, "Should I be paying attention to this? Should I be looking more closely at Peloton? Like, what am I signing away here?"
Yeah, my guess is that people see that they either get really concerned and it kind of induces fear, or more likely they just stop scrolling. They're like, "Oh, I'm at the end of the page. The legal
Yeah.
stuff is here." So they're missing an opportunity. Typically, what we'd want to see is if the lawyers will let us do it, and most will, is put that down below the footer,
Hmm.
right? So if you keep scrolling down,
Down
James,
here.
put it down there below where all the rest of the terms typically are, right? That way, people actually get to the footer. Now, let's talk about this footer for a minute. I'm noticing a few things here. The first is that we really want to put a product focused navigation on the left. So repeat that main navigation. If people have come all the way down here, they are interested in seeing an overview of everything on the site. That's generally including product. So what we want here is on the very far left is just repeat that main navigation, then have the other items learn about, visit us, support. And I would actually swap support and visit us, because what typically consumers are going to do if they want to get in touch with the brand, they're going to scroll and look at the bottom right hand corner. Right now, you have your email sign up, which really I'm just signing up to get a bottle for $1. I assume. I'm not really sure what I'm getting out of that, what I'm signing up for. There is a little bit of support text there, but it's kind of a challenge. People aren't going to read all of that, right? Um, but all in all, it's nice to have a phone number, live chat, a whole support center. All of that's really really helpful. So all in all, I think it's not terribly well done, but I don't think it's horrible. I think it gets the job done. I would focus on products and then make sure all the contact information is on the right, and place the sign up someplace a little bit easier. For people to get what they need. Right, the sign up is kind of a last ditch effort to have it in your footer. It's very rarely used or utilized, I should say. So really what you want to do here is focus on what consumers are there for. And generally in that area of your page, they're there to get in contact with you because they have a question or a concern.
Right. Or they're coming down here for some of these nitty gritty details. They have a return, or they're wondering how long it's going to
Hmm.
take to ship, or something like that. So having these
Yep.
spelled out as well feels. And I would hope that some of their showrooms, and if they want to visit us, like see one in person, I
Hmm.
would hope that that's repeated on their product page. I guess is my only call out from the
Yeah.
footer, because it's nice to have it here. But when I'm at the point of sale, if I'm like, I'm kind of on the fence, it's $1,500, it's a big investment. What happens if I don't like it? I don't want to
Hmm.
have to return this bulky item. I don't even know what that looks like, especially after I've assembled it or whatever. I wonder if I could
Hmm.
just go see one in person. That's where I want to see that content. So I would hope that that's repeated on the product page, was my
That's
main
great.
thought here. Yeah.
Good
Cool.
points.
Awesome. Well, overall, I mean, I expected the site to be beautiful. I expected a lot of things to be done well. I think that's true here, but still some areas for improvement and also some testing. So, John, as always, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. We will
Yeah.
wrap this up and get it over to the team at Peloton, and hopefully they'll find it helpful as they plan for the new year here after the campaign's over.
Great.